Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
March now. Wow.
I know. Where has this year gone already?
I'm happy. Spring's
I'm-
almost here.
I'm fine with
I
it.
know.
That's
Yeah,
it.
we're getting that like taste weather-wise, but we know there's probably going to be snow in the forecast because let's be real.
No. We
So
might-
today we're going to talk about commission. I know we talked about it a little last month, so I don't want to like beat a dead horse, but I thought we kind of break down like the process and kind of how we approach it with our clients. So again, I'm going to preface this with there's no standard commission. This
Mhm.
company doesn't charge this and this company doesn't charge that, or this area you pay this and this area you pay that. There's no standardized commission. That is a big thing to keep in mind. However, individual companies can set thresholds for commission. They can tell their agents, you cannot take a listing under 2%. You cannot take a listing under 3%. So they can do that. Different agencies can. So our agency does not have any sort of commission limit. So we're kind of independent contractors, free
Nice.
to do what we want. So that is nice. It gives us flexibility. I will say commission, this lawsuit happened this past summer. It started before then, but the decision went down this summer. So we had to make some changes starting in August. So the conversation, everything's the same. And I think that's what people aren't understanding. This is how we've kind of always worked. And I think the main thing that they wanted to change was how we explain it and make sure we're explaining it. I think more so on the buyer side, sellers always knew there's a commission, but I think a lot of buyers didn't understand too.
True.
I mean, the sellers were the ones that brought up the lawsuit, which is hilarious to me considering they were getting top dollar for their property.
Yeah.
They were getting multiple offers. So you're going to argue that, oh, I paid the buyer's agent $5,000. Big deal. Big whoop.
Mhm.
Then you wouldn't have had all those buyers if you weren't paying somebody. What would you
might
have
not
gotten for
gotten
your
that at
house?
all. You might have lost out on $5,000.
Right. It's all relative and it's all connected. And I think that's what people need to keep in mind.
Right.
So now when I talk to sellers, I basically say, this is how we're going to do this. And
Yeah.
we talk about, before we used to talk about whole commission. So let's just give I would go in and say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to charge you 5%. This is what I'm going to do with that 5%. I'm going to keep 2.5%, and I'm going to use the other 2.5% to get these other agents to want to bring their buyers to your house. Okay, cool. We signed the listing, and it says that in black and white. It shows the breakdown in both Wisconsin and Illinois. It has said that. So we're not one of the states that was not doing well with the
I see.
explaining part. But so now I break it down and say, this is what I'm going to work for. And while it's negotiable, we all have our thresholds, right? Like I'm not going to work for less than something.
Right.
So I've had people be like, well, I want the commission to be here. And I'm like, I won't work down here. So move on. So now I'm going to say my commission is 3%. Now we have to decide, what do you want to pay? Is that fair? You good with that? Okay, good. Now, what do you want to pay a buyer's agent? And they will say, oh, I heard I don't have to pay a buyer's agent anymore. I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to, but then somebody has to pay that agent because nobody works for free. So now the buyers coming to your house makes your house less affordable because they have to pay their agent. Or there's going to be, there's going to be less buyers. So now you're attractive to this threshold of people, and now you've just moved that down. Or you depleted your pool of buyers by not offering this. So I say, I'm not going to tell you what to offer. I do not like to see less than 2%. That's all I'll say. You pick a number, but I really don't want to see anything less than 2%.
Right.
And then I think it's important for sellers to understand that just because we say 2%, and we talked about this before, it is in the offer to purchase. So that buyer's agent is going to put whatever they want in that offer to purchase, and we're going to negotiate it from there. So let's say they put 3 and you're like, well, I only want to pay 2. And now you might, and then the buyer's agent says, okay, well, I'll come down to 2.5. And you're like, I told you I don't want to pay more than 2. And then you might lose the buyer because the buyer gets irritated.
And then you get another offer with 2.5.
And it'll just keep happening. And then, And the
But
agent,
it's still their right to say two. And then what happens from there?
Mhm.
Then the
you know,
buyer
and
is
then
responsible for it.
either, a few things can happen. I think what we're seeing happen more often is we are seeing some buyers. I would say there's a chunk of buyers agents that are saying, okay, you know what?
Mhm.
Our agreement was for, this is the time I have into your file. You've been pretty easy clients. I want to get this done for you. So I'll agree to the two. Or they're going to say, here's the difference. Do you want to pay it? Or collectively, and this just happened to me, collectively, that buyer's agent and their buyer who is loyal to them and they are friends, they've kind of been through it, they've been seeing houses for months. They're going to collectively say, you know what? Bye. See ya. We don't
Yeah.
care. We'll go buy something else. And that's what we did. I said, we were only a few thousand apart. I mean, I had already eaten a little bit of money. And my buyer didn't feel like I should have to eat more. And the seller felt like the buyer should eat it. And we were just like, no, and guess what? It's still on the market a month later. Congratulations. We argued over
boy.
$2,000 and now you're still on the market. So, and I think Lisa and I were talking, our other partner was talking about this the other day. Spring market is here.
Yeah.
So, it is here and I am so busy. And these sellers are in for a pretty rude awakening. We are seeing more and more and more price reductions. I'm seeing more and more houses go under contract right away
Mhm.
and then come back up after inspection because
Yeah.
the sellers are still like, I hold all the cards. I'm not doing anything. I don't want to make any repairs. I don't want to give
Yep.
you any credits. And the buyer's like,
Yeah.
okay, then bye. I'm not paying top dollar
Yep.
plus buying your crappy house. I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
So
We're not in
the
that market
sellers,
anymore.
no, and the
Not
sellers
any-
need to
any
get a
credit.
clue.
And then
Get
go
a
out
clue.
back on the market for less than what we were asking.
Right. And going back on the market is the kiss of death. So if you go back on, you're going to have to take less. You're probably going to have to reduce. You're going to sit longer. You have carrying costs,
Yep.
all these things. And you probably could have saved yourself money just
Yeah.
negotiating with buyer one. So I think sellers, listen up. You're going to have to be more negotiable going into the spring and summer, because even though I think the inventory is going to be low, these buyers are fed up. They've had enough. And now for the last year, almost year, you've been like, we're not even going to pay your agent, blah, blah, blah. Now eat that, buyer. And the buyers are like, no, then we just won't buy. We'll sign another lease, I guess, till you want to come back down to reality. So I think the sellers need to realize the prices are still historically so good. So definitely if you're thinking of selling, take advantage of it. Negotiate the commission, but you want everyone else to be negotiable. You also need to be negotiable. So there's lots of points in that deal where things are negotiated, commission among them as well. So, be a little negotiable. And then, keep in mind as buyers, like we need to have buyer agencies signed. We are not legally allowed to show you property without an agency agreement signed. Do you need to sign a 6-month year agreement? No, we can write it just for those few properties. I'll say like, okay, I'm fine meeting you a couple times. And just doing it per these properties. But after we meet a couple times, if you don't like me, stop calling me and texting me and asking me to see stuff. And then we don't have to work together. But if the vibe is there and you want to work with me and I've shown you value, you should be willing to sign the 6-month agreement. 6 months is my standard. Everyone's different. Again, that's negotiable too, the term. But to me, I've been doing this 20 years and 6 months is very reasonable and it's very average. Some people it's years. Some people it's 30 days. You should see one house and you're done. Some people I've had clients for years.
In California, they're only allowed to sign for 3 months. And then they have to re-sign in California. That was part of their thing. Something I just randomly wanted to add there. So if you're in California, you might have to
Friday fun
3 months
fact.
with the agent. Yeah.
Yeah. Fun Friday.
But that's just to me, it's just silly. Like you're just wasting more time doing that. And for some reason you say, hey, I did sign this. I mean, this is not for me anyway. I signed this with you, but honestly, we're not really we're not jiving. I'll be like, sweet. We're go ahead and end this early. I don't care. We can sign something saying that we're ending it early, that you're not tied to me at all. We'll make it work. Because I always let my buyers know that, because if if you don't want to work with me and you're that unhappy, I'm not going to drag you to the, that's
Right.
not you.
Meters over
I've
it.
shown you
Right.
hundreds
And
of houses and then you just don't want to work with me anymore. I can
And
take,
it's
I can
business.
take
It's
it.
business is
right.
business.
It's
Yeah.
business. And it's like in life, like, you think about friends, family members. If
Yeah.
they don't like you, most likely you also, part of you does not
Right.
like them either.
Right.
So
Correct.
congrats. Oh, great. You don't like me. Well, I also don't like you. Like
Yeah.
there's definitely always a mutual. So I don't want to work with people that don't want to work with me. And
Right.
and again, that's not how you make friends in this business, is holding people's feet to the fire over a buyer agency agreement. You're not going to
Right.
make any friends. Are there going to be agents that sue buyers for these contracts? Absolutely. That's going to happen. And in some instance, it's a
Yeah.
lot of money.
Right.
But
Yeah.
if we're talking a $4,000 commission, I'm not getting an
Right.
attorney and taking you to court over that.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Because
honestly, I'm not saying, depending on the situation, there might be a really terrible situation where, buyers maybe strung us along in a sense where, or they entered in a contract with somebody else too. And, there's a conflict there. I'm not saying that it could never happen on our end, but I just feel like it would really have to be the right circumstance to ever file a lawsuit on a buyer.
So
Yeah.
a lot of
Really
times,
crazy.
would you get yourself into that situation if you're a buyer working with one of you and they decide to go out on the weekend to open houses now that spring is here? That's where I think many buyers can get themselves into trouble, because if you're currently working with an agent, you have to be extremely clear the minute you walk into that open house and the agent representing the open house says, "Hi, I'm Kim. Are you working with an agent?" You have to tell them yes, verbally, or write it down, or both. Give them
Yes.
your agent's name and the company they work for, and continue walking through the home.
Yeah,
Yes.
and you know what? The agent, that agent should be, happy to hear about it. I personally
Yeah.
try to let agents know if I know my buyers are
Yeah.
going to an open house, to expect them coming through. Even if I just throw out their first name or something. But I always tell my buyers too, let them know right away you're working with somebody,
Right.
or they're gonna try to get your business, and that's part of this job.
Well, and
Well,
buyers
and
don't know what
to-
they don't know. Some of them
Right.
might think they're being strategic and
Yeah.
then not say anything, because then they plan on leaving and calling you and saying, I found this great house today." Little do they know that they actually went under, what would that be called? That they actually discussed buying the home without giving your information.
I mean,
Are they-
technically it would be like a dual agency, but you
See?
still have a buyer agency with someone else.
Yeah.
So now both agents are entitled to commission. You just screwed
Yes.
yourself. And
And buyers
you
do not
now
know
you still got to
this.
pay the other agent.
Uh,
And as somebody, when I'm like sitting in open house, or like I even have buyers going to open houses, I like to know where they've been, or like, usually the clients that have an agent aren't filling out the sheet. You're not getting their information. So I like to have their
Mhm.
agent. So I can say, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we're at my open house at 123 Main Street.
Mm.
You might want to just follow up with them because they seem to really like it, but I don't know."
Yeah.
So it gives that buyer agent kind of the opportunity, the open door to call and follow up
Yeah.
with their client, and,
Yeah.
keeps the world around. But so we have to have these agencies. And again, on that side, it's negotiable, but
Mhm.
agents are only going to work for what they're going to work for.
Right.
I'm not working for free. I'm not
Right.
doing it.
And if you can't pay the commission, like I have my buyers who just went under contract, they were like, there's no way it would be able to do commission plus find this house in this price range. And I said, well, we're just going to do it like we always have. And, I'm reaching out to agents lately. I have less response of letting me know what the commission is. So I just, honestly, I stopped asking, and I've just been putting it in the offer.
Same.
Because it was like you didn't know what response you were going to get. It was either, oh, put it in the offer, or they would tell you. But really, at the end of the day, I think it's just best to just put it in the offer.
Yeah.
It is.
He's doing, and I have, the only commission, I just got one for an offer I wrote before the weekend, and they did want to change the commission lower and one other thing and change the price. But,
Yeah.
with that instance, with that situation, I would be willing to change to the lower commission for these specific buyers. I mean, they're buying something really, I don't even think they're going to go through with it, but I mean, I can be negotiable too. I feel
Yeah.
like. But if you're an agent, like you don't have to be negotiable. Tell your buyers that I'm not going to be negotiable on my price. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think every situation, like you said, is different. I mean, I have buyers right now that, I mean, they text me starting at 7 a.m. and they're still texting me at 10 p.m. And I've
Yep.
probably seen them and shown them one house every day. And it's constant. It's email. I mean, it's all day.
Mm-hmm.
And those type of people, I am I have to make what I have to make to not be in the hole.
Times 6, times 10, like busy
Yeah.
days.
So
and I will say too, I think
percentage, and if the seller is willing to pay 2 and you only have to pay that 0.4, it's not going to be a crazy amount. Or
and as annoying as this whole lawsuit was, because I think the whole presence of it was just like, what? It didn't make any sense to me. The whole thing was
greedy seller who found
a seller saying, why am I paying someone that's negotiating against me? So I'm paying someone that's against me. And let's be real, in these multiple offer, this crazy market, nobody was against you. Those buyer agents were calling like, please give me a nugget. Tell me, I'll write for whatever your seller wants because my buyer wants to get it. They were still working in their buyer's best interest, but they were writing the offer that would be the biggest, boldest, best offer to the seller.
Right.
So no, you should pay them. You should have paid them. And to those people that started all this, I know I've seen a bunch of different real estate groups and agents are making more than they were before. So I think part of that is when you hear the commission in totality, buyer and seller combined, that's a big number. It's a big dollar amount. It's a bigger percentage. When you're breaking it down and you're having this conversation about your listing commission and this conversation about the buyer's commission and it's separated, I feel like people are just getting more money. It's so crazy. But so ha to you people. And the other thing too for sellers is before this was in our MLS. So like what we had on our listing agreement by law, sorry, my cat is getting stuff. By law, I had to put that number in the MLS. So then me as a buyer's agent, show 123 Main Street, it says I'm getting 2%. I made the decision to show that house knowing, stop biting me, knowing that they were paying 2%. I still showed it.
Yeah.
So now that's what I'm making. And that's what I'm putting in the offer. Yeah. And I've made that choice when I went to go see it. So now I think it's less transparent than it was before. It's weird, but that is all.
Yeah.
We're still working through it. That's all we can do.
I've had really cool buyers so far be like, we obviously want you to get paid. Like, we'll figure it out. We know.
Thank you.
But you never know who you're going to work with. But I feel like it also opens for us as agents to really, choose who's best for us, and best fit for us as well to work with. And everyone needs to just be open. You're buying a home. It's a huge process. And Also, Danielle, you just said it might snow. Look out your window. I don't know what's happening.
3:00. It's supposed to snow.
Who said that? I didn't say that. Laura, you said that
earlier. It might snow.
I did. Yeah.
I did. I said we're gonna get snow because it's so.
Just 50 degrees outside.
It was supposed to be. All right. Yeah. Well, we'll put a pin in this. I'm sure we'll talk about commission as we go along, and the market's just getting kind of crazy. So I think it'll start coming up a lot.
To see maybe
next
by
week
June what we've been seeing more with the commission, and if it just stays kind of similar, the same.
Yes, agree. So next week is going to be down payment assistance, all things.
Yes. That'll be
so you will get to.
Laura's got lots of fun stuff you've been helping some of my buyers with. So
yes, so excited.
So what do you have to talk about?
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Okay. All right, guys. Until then.
Okay. Toodaloo. Bye.
Bye.